Poor girl humiliated at blind date for being too fat, until billionaire single dad at next table walked over. "Are you seriously leaving?" Maya's voice cracked as Marcus stood up from their blind date. Phone already to his ear, fake emergency excuse halfway out of his mouth. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since he'd arrived, and what she saw in his eyes made her wish he hadn't. "Look," he said, lowering his voice like that made it kinder. "You seem nice, but I've got standards, okay? And you're just not what I expected." The words hit her like a slap across the face. "I just expected someone different." Maya watched Marcus stand up from their blind date table, watched his eyes scan her body one last time with undisguised disgust, watched him walk away while the entire restaurant pretended not to stare. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The humiliation was a living thing, crawling over her skin, burning in her chest. Different. He meant thinner. He meant prettier. He meant not her. Her hands shook as she reached for her purse. $6 left after bus fare. Not enough to leave with dignity. Not enough for anything except sitting here, drowning in shame, while strangers whispered and averted their eyes. That's when she heard the little girl's voice from the next table. "Daddy, why is that lady crying?" Maya squeezed her eyes shut. "Please don't. Please just let me disappear." But the footsteps came anyway. "Excuse me?" She looked up. A man stood beside her table, tall, late 30s, with a 7-year-old girl clutching his hand. His eyes weren't filled with pity. They were filled with something that looked like anger. "I saw what happened," he said quietly. "And I need you to know. That guy is an idiot." Maya's throat closed. "You don't have to. We're not leaving you alone right now." He pulled out the chair across from her. "I'm Daniel. This is Emma. And we're going to sit here until you stop looking like the world just ended." "But it did," Maya whispered. Daniel leaned forward, his voice dropping to something fierce and gentle all at once. "No, didn't. It just began." And as Emma climbed into the seat beside her, setting a stuffed rabbit on the table between them, Maya realized something terrifying. She had no idea what he meant, but she was about to find out. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. Maya's fingers trembled as she counted the coins for the third time. $14.37. Enough for the bus and maybe a coffee if her date offered to split an appetizer. She swept the change back into her worn purse and stared at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror of her studio apartment. The dress was 5 years old, navy blue, the only one that still fit after the weight she'd gained during her mother's long illness and death. She tried to jazz it up with a thrift store scarf, but the silk kept slipping off her shoulders as if it too wanted to escape. "You shouldn't even be doing this," the voice whispered, the same voice that narrated her life in cruel asides. "He's gonna take one look and leave." But Tina from work had been so insistent. "Marcus is great, Maya. Really. And he specifically said he doesn't care about looks." Which meant, of course, that he'd been warned, that Tina had felt the need to prep him. The thought made Maya's stomach clench. She applied lipstick with an unsteady hand, drugstore brand, the color called Maybe Tonight. The irony wasn't lost on her. The bus ride to Giovanni's restaurant took 40 minutes. Maya spent every one of them constructing and demolishing her defenses. "He's probably nice. Tina wouldn't set you up with someone cruel. Then he's probably desperate. Nobody who had options would agree to this." By the time she reached the restaurant, her carefully applied confidence had evaporated like steam. Have you ever felt like you weren't enough before even walking through the door? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. Across town, Daniel Reeves was helping his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, sound out vocabulary words at their corner table in Giovanni's. It was their Thursday tradition, had been since Sarah died 3 years ago. Dinner out, homework help, then gelato from the shop next door. Daddy, what's compassion? Emma squinted at her worksheet, tongue poking out in concentration. Compassion, Daniel corrected gently. It means caring about someone else's pain. Like when you helped that boy who fell on the playground. Emma nodded, satisfied, and returned to her writing. Daniel watched her bent head. The way her hair fell across her face exactly like Sarah's used to. The grief was dimmer now, more like a bruise than a fresh wound, but it never fully disappeared. He'd built a good life around it, though. Stable, predictable, safe. Emma suddenly looked up, her brown eyes curious. Daddy, do you have compassion? I try to, sweetheart. Then why don't you ever smile like you used to? In the pictures with Mommy, the question landed like a stone in still water. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that smiling feels like betrayal? That moving forward means leaving someone behind? I smile, he said finally. Emma tilted her head, unconvinced, but returned to her homework. Daniel's gaze drifted to the restaurant entrance, where the hostess was seating a young woman who looked like she might shatter if someone breathed too hard in her direction. Maya saw Marcus the moment he walked in. Tina had shown her a picture, handsome in that generically corporate way, with a gym membership tan and practiced smile. He scanned the restaurant, and when his eyes found her, something shifted in his expression. It wasn't subtle. His smile didn't just fade. It collapsed. His step faltered, and in that half-second of naked disappointment before he rearranged his features, Maya saw herself through his eyes. Not enough, never enough, laughably delusional to think otherwise. He approached the table anyway because what else could he do? They were in public. But everything about him screamed reluctance. The way he sat on the very edge of his chair, the phone he immediately placed on the table like an escape hatch. Maya! He didn't extend his hand. Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. You're Marcus. Yeah. He picked up the menu, a barrier between them. So, Tina said you two work together? They made excruciating small talk for exactly 4 minutes. Maya watched him not look at her, watched him check his phone twice, watched the muscle in his jaw tick with barely concealed impatience. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and something like relief flooded his features. I'm so sorry, he said, already standing. This is my boss. There's an emergency at work. I have to. Of course, Maya said, because what else could she say? But as he turned to leave, he paused. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was cruelty disguised as honesty. Either way, the words came out. Look, you seem nice, but I just expected someone different. You know? And then he was gone. Maya sat frozen in her chair, staring at the spot where Marcus had been standing. The restaurant hummed with life around her. The clink of silverware, the murmur of conversation, the soft Italian music drifting from hidden speakers, but all of it felt muffled, distant, like she was underwater. You know? Those 2 words echoed in her skull, each repetition driving the knife deeper. You know? Yes, she knew. She'd always known. That's why she'd almost canceled 3 times. That's why she'd spent her grocery money on the bus fare and worn a dress that cut into her sides. That's why she dared to hope, despite every piece of evidence to the contrary, that maybe, just maybe, someone could see past the body she lived in. The waiter approached, young and uncomfortable. Miss, can I get you anything? Maya's throat was so tight she could barely speak. Coffee, please. Black. She couldn't afford cream anyway. As the waiter retreated, Maya felt the weight of eyes on her. How many people had witnessed her humiliation? How many had watched Marcus's face fall, watched him manufacture an excuse, watched him flee like she was contagious? Her hands found her purse, fingers fumbling for her wallet. She needed to leave, now, before the tears that were building behind her eyes broke free. But when she opened her wallet, she stared at the remaining $6. Not enough for coffee and the bus. She'd have to choose. The tears came then, hot and shameful, sliding down her cheeks despite her desperate attempt to hold them back. She turned her face toward the wall, trying to make herself smaller, invisible, non-existent. At the next table, Emma Reeves had stopped pretending to do homework. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging on Daniel's sleeve with increasing urgency. "Daddy, that lady is crying." Daniel had been trying not to stare, but he'd seen everything. The man's arrival, the barely concealed disgust, the manufactured excuse, the parting blow delivered with casual cruelty. He'd felt his hands curl into fists under the table. "I know, sweetheart," he said quietly. "Why did that man leave? Was he mean to her?" "Yes," Daniel said, "because there was no point lying. He was very mean." Emma's face scrunched up in the way it did when she was working through a moral problem. "But Mommy always said we help people who are sad." "You said that's compassion." Daniel's chest tightened. Even now, 3 years later, Sarah was teaching him lessons through their daughter. "You're right," he said softly. "So why aren't you helping?" The question hung in the air between them. Why wasn't he? Because it wasn't his business? Because getting involved in a stranger's pain required a kind of emotional availability he'd locked away? Because approaching a woman who'd just been devastated might feel like pity, and pity was its own kind of violence? Or because watching someone else's heart break was too much like remembering his own? Emma was still watching him, waiting for an answer. In her eyes, everything was simple. Someone was hurt. You helped. That's what compassion meant. Daniel looked back at the young woman. She'd turned her face to the wall, but he could see her shoulders shaking. She was trying so hard to disappear, and every person in the restaurant was letting her. He thought of Sarah, who'd never walked past suffering without stopping, who'd taught him that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was choosing kindness despite it. "You're absolutely right, Emma," Daniel said, making a decision that would change everything. "We should help." Maya heard footsteps approaching and squeezed her eyes shut. Please let it be the waiter. Please let it be someone bringing her coffee so she could drink it, pay, and escape this nightmare. "Excuse me." The voice was male, deep, gentle. "Not the waiter." Maya wiped at her face frantically and looked up. A man stood beside her table. Tall, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes and a worried expression. Behind him stood a little girl with pigtails, clutching a stuffed rabbit. "I'm sorry to intrude," the man said. And he actually did look sorry, which somehow made it worse. "But my daughter and I were wondering, would it be okay if we joined you? The restaurant's getting crowded." And, "It's not crowded," Maya interrupted, her voice raw. She gestured to the half-empty restaurant. "You don't have to do this." The lie was transparent. They both knew it. The man glanced at his daughter, then back at Maya. "You're right. It's not crowded." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "But my daughter Emma has a theory that nobody should eat alone when they're sad. And she's usually right about these things." Emma nodded solemnly. "It's science." Despite everything, despite the humiliation still burning in her chest, despite the tears still wet on her face, Maya felt the tiniest crack in her despair. The little girl's earnest expression was so pure, so untainted by the cruelty of the world, that it was almost painful to look at. "I don't need pity," Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Good," the man replied, Because we're not offering any. We're offering company. There's a difference. He waited, not pushing, not assuming, just offering. Maya looked between the man and his daughter. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to preserve what little dignity she had left. But another part of her, the part that was so tired of being alone, of being invisible, of being too much and not enough all at once, whispered something different. What if you said yes? Okay, she heard herself say. You can sit. The man's face broke into a smile. Not pity, not triumph, just genuine relief. Thank you. I'm Daniel, by the way. Daniel Reeves. And this is Emma. Maya, she said quietly. Maya Chun. Emma climbed into the chair beside Maya, setting her stuffed rabbit on the table between them. This is Mr. Hops. He's good at making people feel better. Daniel sat down across from them, and as he did, he caught the eye of their waiter and gestured for menus. Not asking Maya if she wanted to order. Not making a production of it. Just quietly ensuring she wouldn't have to choose between coffee and bus fare. The simple kindness of it broke something in Maya's chest. I saw what happened, Daniel said gently, once the waiter had left. And for what it's worth, that guy was an idiot. Maya laughed. A broken, watery sound. You don't even know me. I know enough, Daniel said. His eyes held hers, steady and sure. I know you had the courage to show up. I know he didn't. That tells me everything I need to know about who's worth knowing. Emma nodded enthusiastically. Daddy's really smart about people. Maya stared at them both. These strangers who had every reason to mind their own business, who had chosen instead to sit at the table of a crying woman they didn't know. Why? She asked, the question barely a whisper. Why would you do this? Daniel's expression softened. Because someone once told me that the world is only as kind as we make it. And I think she was right. Maya stared at the menu Daniel had ordered for her, the words blurring together. Her mind was screaming contradictions. They're being kind. This is a trap. Accept the help. Run before it gets worse. I really should go, she said, not moving. You haven't had your coffee yet, Emma pointed out very seriously. Emma, let Maya decide what she wants to do, Daniel said gently, but his daughter shook her head. But Daddy, she's still sad. Mr. Hops can tell. Maya looked at the stuffed rabbit, then at Emma's worried face, and felt her defenses waver. Mr. Hops is very perceptive. He is. Emma beamed. He knew Daddy was sad for a long time after Mommy went to heaven. He was right. The words hung in the air. Daniel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and Maya saw it. The flash of old pain, carefully managed but never gone. Emma, maybe... Daniel started. It's okay, Maya interrupted softly. She met Daniel's eyes. I'm sorry. About your wife. He nodded, a muscle working in his throat. 3 years ago. Cancer. The waiter arrived with Maya's coffee and took their order. Daniel insisted on adding an appetizer, bruschetta, and Maya's stomach growled traitorously despite her protests. I can't let you pay for. You're not letting me do anything, Daniel said firmly. I'm choosing to. There's a difference. Maya wrapped her hands around the warm coffee mug, using it as an anchor. You don't understand. Men don't just... People don't just help me. Not without wanting something. I want something, Daniel admitted. Maya's stomach dropped. There it was. The catch. I want, he continued, for my daughter to see that kindness exists in the world. That when someone is hurting, you don't look away. That's what I want. Emma nodded enthusiastically through a mouthful of breadstick. Maya felt tears threatening again. Why are you being so nice to me? Why wouldn't I be? Daniel asked, and he seemed genuinely confused by the question. Because I'm fat. Because I'm poor. Because I'm forgettable. The answers crowded her throat, but she couldn't voice them. Not to this man with his kind eyes and his daughter who thought stuffed rabbits could heal sadness. I don't usually, Maya started, then stopped. This doesn't happen to me. What doesn't? People staying. The words escaped before she could stop them, and immediately she wanted to take them back. Too much. Too honest. Too raw. But Daniel didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly, like she'd confirmed something he already suspected. I know what that's like, he said quietly. Feeling like everyone leaves. Their eyes met across the table, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Two people who'd learned not to expect kindness because they'd been taught it wasn't meant for them. Emma, oblivious to the weight of the moment, pushed Mr. Hops across the table toward Maya. You can hold him if you want. He helps. Maya picked up the worn rabbit, and something in her chest cracked open. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the whiplash of cruelty followed by unexpected grace. Maybe it was just that she was so tired of carrying everything alone. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay for dinner. Daniel smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his whole face. Good. The bruschetta arrived, and with it, an unexpected ease. Emma chattered about her school day, a story involving a hamster escape and a very angry librarian, and Maya found herself laughing. Actually laughing. And then Mr. Whiskers ran behind the encyclopedias, and Mrs. Patterson said a word Daddy says I'm not allowed to repeat, Emma concluded dramatically. Daniel's ears turned slightly red. She said, darn. She did not, Emma Stage whispered to Maya. It was much worse. Maya smiled into her coffee, and for a moment, she forgot to hate herself. The feeling was so foreign it almost hurt. Daniel ordered entrees despite Maya's weak protests. Pasta primavera for her, chicken parmesan for himself, and Emma's usual, plain noodles with butter, no green things. You're very specific, Maya observed. I have standards, Emma replied with 7-year-old dignity. As they ate, the conversation drifted. Daniel told her he was a graphic designer who worked from home. Emma proudly announced that her daddy made pictures for books, and that he was very good even though he was old. I'm 38, Emma. Like I said, old. Maya laughed again, and the sound startled her. When was the last time she'd laughed twice in one evening? What about you? Daniel asked. What do you do? Maya hesitated. Her job always felt like evidence of her inadequacy. Couldn't even afford nursing school. Stuck as an aide instead. I'm a nurse's aide. At Mercy General. Night shift, usually. That's noble work, Daniel said, and he meant it. She could tell. It's hard work, Maya corrected. Noble makes it sound like a choice. Daniel tilted his head. Isn't it? Not when it's the only option that pays enough for rent. The bitterness escaped before she could stop it. Sorry. I'm not usually this honest with strangers. We're not strangers anymore, Emma declared. We're friends. Right, Daddy? Daniel's eyes stayed on Maya. Right? Something in his gaze made Maya's breath catch. He was looking at her, really looking, and there was no disgust in it. No judgment. Just curiosity. Interest. Something that looked dangerously like warmth. She looked away first, heat flooding her cheeks. The waiter brought the check, and Maya reached for her purse out of instinct. Don't even think about it, Daniel said, already handing over his card. This is too much. I can't. You can and you will. His tone was gentle but firm. Consider it payment for making Emma laugh. She's been worried about her spelling test all week, and you've completely distracted her. Emma nodded. I forgot I was nervous. That's magic. Maya felt tears threatening for a different reason now. These people, these strangers, were treating her like she mattered. Like her presence was a gift instead of a burden. Thank you, she managed. Really, I don't know how to. You don't have to know, Daniel said softly. Just accept it. Outside the restaurant, the evening air was cool and clear. Daniel walked them to the bus stop, Emma skipping ahead with Mr. Hobbs. Where do you live? Daniel asked. North Side, about 40 minutes on the bus. He frowned. That's a long ride this late. I'm used to it. They stood in companionable silence, watching Emma chase fireflies in the parking lot. Maya felt the evening wrapping around them like something fragile and precious. Something that would end the moment she got on that bus. Maya, Daniel said suddenly, could I get your number? Maybe we could do this again sometime. Dinner. Emma really likes you. Emma likes you. Not I like you. The distinction hurt more than it should have. I don't think that's a good idea, Maya heard herself say. Why not? Because good things don't happen to me. Because you'll wake up tomorrow and realize you made a mistake. Because I can't survive getting hurt again. I just don't, she said instead. Daniel looked disappointed but nodded. Okay, but Maya, for what it's worth, that guy tonight was wrong. About everything. The bus pulled up before she could respond. As Maya climbed aboard, she turned back one last time. Daniel was still standing there, Emma on his shoulders now, both of them waving. And Maya let herself imagine, just for a second, what it might feel like to belong with them. Maya spent the entire bus ride staring at the crumpled napkin in her hand. Daniel had slipped it to her at the last second. His number scrawled in neat handwriting with a simple message, just in case. She told herself she wouldn't use it. She told herself all weekend. By Monday morning, she'd texted him. Maya, this is Maya. From the restaurant. The reply came within minutes. Daniel, I'm glad you reached out. How are you? Maya, honestly? Confused. Why did you help me? Daniel, can I call you? Her phone rang before she could answer. Maya almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. Hey! Daniel's voice was warm through the speaker. I wanted to answer that properly. I helped you because Emma saw you hurting, and she reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What's that? That hiding from pain doesn't make you strong. Facing it does. Maya sat down on her threadbare couch. Your wife taught you that? A pause. Yeah. Sarah was... She was the bravest person I knew. Even at the end, when the cancer had taken everything else, she kept choosing kindness. Kept choosing to see people. His voice roughened. I haven't been very good at that since she died. I can't imagine losing someone like that. I can't imagine facing the world believing you don't deserve basic kindness. Daniel countered gently. But I think you do. Face that, Maya's throat tightened. You don't know my story. So tell me. And somehow she did. She told him about her mother's diabetes, the years of medical debt, dropping out of nursing school to work full-time. She told him about the comments from family, from doctors, from dates who never called back. She told him about learning to make herself small, to expect nothing, to apologize for taking up space. My mom used to say I was her beautiful girl, Maya whispered. But after she died, it was like, I don't know, like I lost the only person who saw me that way. And every mirror, every date, every stranger's face just confirmed what I already knew, that she was wrong. Or, Daniel said softly, everyone else is wrong. You don't understand what it's like. You're right. I don't understand your specific pain. But Maya, I know what it's like to feel like you're not allowed to be happy. After Sarah died, I convinced myself that moving forward meant forgetting her. That loving again would be betrayal. I've been half alive for 3 years because I was afraid of dishonoring her memory. What changed? Emma asked me why I don't smile like I used to, and then I watched you sit there, believing you weren't worth defending, and I realized we're both doing the same thing. We're both punishing ourselves for things that aren't our fault. Maya wiped at her eyes. This is crazy. We barely know each other. Then let's change that. Have coffee with me. Bring your walls, your fears, your doubt. Bring all of it. I'm not going anywhere. Why? The question came out broken. Because Emma was right. Because Mr. Hops is never wrong. And because when you laughed at dinner, it was the first time in 3 years I remembered what hope sounds like. Maya closed her eyes, terrified and tempted in equal measure. Okay, coffee. But Daniel. Yeah. If this is pity, please tell me now. I can't survive that. It's not pity, Maya. It's possibility. There's a difference. They met at a small cafe on Thursday afternoon, neutral ground. Maya insisted. She arrived early, ordered water she didn't drink, and nearly left twice before Daniel walked in with Emma. I hope it's okay I brought her, Daniel said. She insisted on seeing her friend Maya. Emma launched herself at Maya with zero hesitation, wrapping small arms around her waist. I missed you. Something warm and dangerous bloomed in Maya's chest. I missed you too, sweetheart. They ordered hot chocolate for Emma, coffee for the adults, a slice of cake they all shared. Emma pulled out her homework, and Maya helped her with math problems while Daniel watched with an expression she couldn't quite read. You're good with her, he said softly. She makes it easy. Maya smiled as Emma triumphantly solved a word problem. She reminds me why I wanted to be a nurse, to help people, especially kids. Why didn't you finish school? Maya's smile dimmed. My mom got sick my sophomore year. Someone had to work. By the time she passed, I had too much debt to go back. That's not fair. Life rarely is. She shrugged, but Daniel reached across the table and covered her hand with his. It's not fair, he repeated. But it's also not permanent. You could still. I'm 28 with no savings and a credit score in the basement. Dreams are for people with safety nets. Emma looked up from her homework. My daddy says dreams are for people who are brave enough to want them. Daniel's ears turned red. I may have said something like that. You were right, Maya said quietly, squeezing his hand before she lost her nerve. I've just forgotten how to be brave. Then we'll remember together, Daniel said. The afternoon blurred into evening. They talked about everything. His work, her shifts, Emma's upcoming school play. Daniel made her laugh with stories of disastrous client meetings. Maya told them about her patients, the elderly woman who sang opera at 3 a.m., the little boy who called her his favorite nurse even though you're not a real one yet. Yet, Daniel emphasized. You said yet. Maya blinked. Hadn't she? As the cafe began closing, they walked to the park across the street. Emma ran ahead to the swings, and Daniel and Maya sat on a bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Thank you, Maya said, for this, for seeing me. Thank you for letting me. Daniel turned to face her, his expression serious. Maya, I need you to know something. That night at the restaurant, I didn't approach you because I felt sorry for you. I approached you because Emma saw what I'd stopped letting myself see. What's that? Someone worth knowing. Someone who shows up even when it's hard. Someone who helps 7-year-olds with math homework and makes them feel like they matter. He paused. Someone I'd like to keep knowing. If you'll let me. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Daniel, I come with a lot of baggage.
I'm broke. I'm insecure. I'm
human, he finished. You're human. So am I. So is Emma. We're all just trying to figure this out. Emma ran back, breathless and glowing. Daddy, can Maya come to my play next week? Please. Daniel looked at Maya, hope and uncertainty warring in his eyes. Would you want to? Every instinct screamed at Maya to protect herself, to run before the inevitable disappointment. But she looked at Emma's eager face, at Daniel's gentle patience, and felt something shift inside her. "I'd love to," she heard herself say. Emma cheered. Daniel smiled, that full, transformative smile, and reached for Maya's hand again. This time she didn't pull away. As they walked Maya to the bus stop, Emma between them, Maya let herself imagine something dangerous. A future where moments like this weren't flukes, but foundations. "Text me when you get home?" Daniel asked as her bus approached. "I will." "And Maya?" He waited until she looked at him. "That guy at the restaurant? He's spending his life missing out. I'm not going to make that mistake." The bus doors closed between them, but Maya watched through the window as Daniel lifted Emma onto his shoulders, both of them waving until she couldn't see them anymore. For the first time in years, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worth staying for. The week leading up to Emma's play was a blur of texts and phone calls. Daniel sent pictures of Emma practicing her lines. Maya shared stories from work. They talked about nothing and everything, building something fragile and precious between them. Then Maya made the mistake of looking at Daniel's Facebook page. She told herself she was just curious. But as she scrolled through old photos, her heart sank with each image. Sarah had been beautiful, effortlessly thin, glowing with health and happiness. In every picture, Daniel looked at her like she hung the moon. Maya stared at a photo from their wedding day. Sarah's white dress, Daniel's adoring gaze, the caption, "Marrying my best friend and the most beautiful woman in the world." The most beautiful woman in the world. Maya looked down at her own body, soft and heavy, and felt something ugly coil in her stomach. What was she thinking? That she could compete with a memory? That Daniel would look at her the way he'd looked at Sarah? She was a pity project, a good deed, a way for him to feel better about himself. By the time Friday evening arrived and she met Daniel and Emma at the school auditorium, Maya had constructed an impenetrable wall around herself. "Maya!" Emma ran up, costume slightly askew. "You came." "Of course I did." Maya forced a smile, avoiding Daniel's eyes. He noticed immediately. "Hey, is everything okay?" "Fine." "Maya." "I said I'm fine, Daniel." The play was charming. Emma forgot her lines once but recovered with impressive 7-year-old confidence. Afterward, Daniel suggested ice cream, but Maya shook her head. "I should get going. Early shift tomorrow." "It's Friday night. You told me you're off weekends." Caught in the lie, Maya's defenses hardened. "Why are you keeping track of my schedule? This is getting weird." Daniel's expression shifted from concern to hurt. "Weird? Maya, what's going on?" "Nothing. This whole thing is just nothing." "Nothing?" His voice dropped. "The last week has been nothing?" Emma tugged on his sleeve, confused and worried. "Daddy." Maya felt tears burning but refused to let them fall. "You know what? I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't." "Can't do what?" "Talk to me. I saw your Facebook. Okay?" The words exploded out of her. "I saw Sarah. I saw how you looked at her. And I know I'm just some project for you. Some good deed to make yourself feel better about." "Stop," Daniel said, his voice sharp enough that Maya actually did. "You don't get to tell me what I feel." "Then what do you feel, Daniel? Pity? Obligation? Guilt because your wife would have been nice to the fat girl crying in a restaurant?" The words landed like grenades. Emma started crying. Other parents were staring. Daniel's jaw clenched. "You want to know what I feel?" "Frustrated."
Sad.
"Angry that you're so determined to believe you're not worth caring about that you'll sabotage anything good before it has a chance to hurt you. You don't know what it's like." "You're right." Daniel's voice rose, and then he visibly struggled to control it. "You're right, Maya. I don't know what it's like to be looked at the way you've been looked at. but you don't know what it's like to lose everything and spend 3 years afraid to feel anything real because the pain of losing it again might actually kill you. His voice cracked. I watched my wife die, Maya. I held her hand while cancer took everything that made her her. And yes, she was beautiful. She was beautiful and brave and kind, and I loved her with everything I had. But she's gone. And I'm still here. And for the first time since she died, I met someone who made me remember what it feels like to want to be alive. Tears were streaming down his face now. But clearly, I'm not allowed to feel that. Clearly, wanting to know you is pity. Clearly, my daughter loving you is charity. So fine. You're right. This is nothing. He picked up Emma, who was sobbing into his shoulder, and turned away. Daniel, wait. Go home, Maya. You've made your choice. She watched them walk away, Emma's cries fading into the parking lot, and felt her world collapse. She'd done exactly what she always did, destroyed something good before it could destroy her. Except this time, the destruction felt worse than any rejection ever had. Maya called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. She spent Saturday in bed, staring at her ceiling, replaying every word she'd said and hating herself more with each repetition. Sunday morning, her coworker Tina showed up unannounced with coffee and no patience. "All right, what happened?" Tina demanded, letting herself in. Maya told her everything: Giovanni's, Marcus, Daniel, the fight. All of it. Tina listened in silence, then set down her coffee with a decisive thunk. "You're an idiot." "Thanks. Super helpful." "I'm serious, Maya. That man told you he was falling for you, and you threw it in his face because you're too scared to believe him. You didn't see Sarah's pictures. So what? You think he's not allowed to move on? You think loving someone new erases who he loved before?" Tina's voice softened. "Honey, you've spent so long being rejected that you can't recognize acceptance when it's staring you in the face. What if I'm wrong? What if he realizes I'm not? Not what? Not perfect? Nobody is. Not even Sarah." Tina grabbed Maya's hands. "You want to know what I think? I think you're terrified because for once, someone is choosing you. And that means you might have to choose yourself too." The words hit like a physical blow. "I don't know how," Maya whispered. "Then learn." "But Maya, if you let this man walk away without fighting for him, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. Have you ever sabotaged something good because you were afraid of losing it? Sometimes our biggest battles are with ourselves. Share your story in the comments. You're not alone. Across town, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, staring at his phone. Emma had finally stopped asking why Maya wasn't coming over, but the hurt in her daughter's eyes was unbearable. "You should call her, Daddy," Emma said, appearing in her pajamas with Mr. Hops. "She made it pretty clear she doesn't want to hear from me. But you're sad. She's probably sad too. Mr. Hops says sad people need each other." Daniel pulled Emma onto his lap. "Sometimes grown-ups are complicated, sweetheart." "That's dumb." He laughed despite himself. "Yeah, it kind of is." Emma studied his face with unsettling perception. "Do you love Maya?" The question froze him. Did he? Was he ready to use that word? But as he thought about Maya's laugh, her gentleness with Emma, the way she tried so hard to be brave despite everything, he realized the answer was terrifyingly simple. "Yeah, sweetie. I think I might." "Then you have to tell her. Mommy always said love is about being brave even when you're scared." Daniel's eyes burned. Sarah had said that, during her final weeks, when she'd made him promise not to shut down after she was gone. "You're right," he said, kissing Emma's head. "Mommy was the smartest person I knew. Besides me," Emma added. "Besides you." He looked at his phone, torn between pride and hope. What if Maya didn't want to hear from him? What if she'd meant every word? But what if Tina was right? What if Maya was just scared? He picked up his phone and typed a message he didn't send. Maya, I'm not sorry for caring about you, but I am sorry I didn't fight harder to make you believe you deserve it. If you're ready to try again, we'll be at Giovanni's Thursday night. Our table, 7 p.m. His finger hovered over send. Do it, Daddy, Emma whispered. He sent it. Maya was folding laundry when her phone buzzed. She almost didn't look, but something made her pick it up. She read Daniel's message once, twice, 3 times. Our table. He'd called it their table. Maya sank onto her couch, phone clutched to her chest. He was giving her another chance. After everything she'd said, he was still choosing her. The question was, could she choose herself? She thought about her mother, who'd always believed in her. She thought about Emma's unconditional acceptance. She thought about Daniel's words. You're so determined to believe you're not worth caring about that you'll sabotage anything good. He was right, but being right didn't make change easy. Maya looked at her reflection in the darkened TV screen. Soft, imperfect, tired. For years, she'd seen only everything wrong. But what if she tried, just for a moment, to see what Daniel saw? She saw someone who showed up. Someone who helped 7-year-olds with homework and sang to Alzheimer's patients at 3 a.m. Someone who'd survived loss and debt and rejection and still had enough heart left to love a little girl with a stuffed rabbit. Maybe that was enough. Maybe she was enough. Thursday night, Maya stood outside Giovanni's, hands shaking. Through the window, she could see Daniel and Emma at their table, the same one where this had all started. She could walk away, protect herself, stay safe in her small, lonely life. Or she could walk through that door and choose something terrifying and beautiful. Possibility. Maya took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Daniel saw her first. His hand froze halfway to his water glass, eyes wide with something that looked like disbelief and hope tangled together. Emma turned, following his gaze, and her face lit up like sunrise. Maya! She started to run, but Daniel caught her gently. Wait, sweetheart. Let Maya come to us. Maya's legs felt like lead as she crossed the restaurant floor. Every eye seemed to follow her, or maybe that was just her imagination. Either way, she kept moving. When she reached their table, the words she'd rehearsed evaporated. Hi, she managed. Hi, Daniel said softly. Emma looked between them, then pushed out the empty chair with her foot. You should sit down. We ordered bruschetta because it's your favorite. Maya's eyes burned. You remembered. We remember everything about you, Emma said matter-of-factly, then returned to coloring her placemat. Daniel hadn't stopped looking at her. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wasn't either. Maya sat down slowly, hands twisted in her lap. Daniel, I'm so sorry. What I said about Sarah, about you. You were scared, he interrupted gently. I understand scared. That doesn't make it okay. No, he agreed. But it makes it human. He reached across the table, palm up, offering. Maya, I meant what I said. All of it. You're not a project. You're not pity. You're someone I want to know. Someone He glanced at Emma, who was pretending not to listen. Someone I have very strong feelings about. Maya stared at his hand. This was the moment. The choice. She could pull back, make excuses, protect the fortress she'd built around her heart. Or she could reach across the table and choose to believe. Not that she was perfect, but that she was worth choosing anyway. Maya placed her hand in his. I looked at your Facebook, she admitted quietly. I saw Sarah, and I convinced myself I could never be what she was to you. You're right, Daniel said, and her heart lurched. You can't be what Sarah was, because Sarah was Sarah and you're Maya. And I'm not looking for a replacement, Maya. I'm looking for a new beginning. I come with so much baggage. So do I. So does Emma. So does everyone who's lived long enough to have a story. He squeezed her hand. You know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who works 2 jobs to honor her mother's memory. Someone who helps a stranger's kid with homework. Someone brave enough to show up for a blind date even though she was terrified. Someone brave enough to show up here tonight. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. I don't feel brave. Bravery isn't not being scared. Emma piped up, looking up from her drawing. It's doing the thing even when you are scared. Right, Daddy? Right? Daniel's thumb traced circles on Maya's palm. And Maya, I need you to know something. When Sarah was dying, she made me promise something. She made me promise I wouldn't shut down. That I'd let myself love again when I was ready. His voice cracked. I think I'm ready, if you are. Maya looked at him, really looked. She saw the grief he carried, the fear that mirrored her own, the hope he was offering like a fragile, precious thing. And she saw something else. A man who'd chosen to see her when the world trained people to look away. I'm terrified, she whispered. Me too. What if I mess this up? Then we'll figure it out together. Daniel smiled. Maya, I'm not asking for perfect. I'm just asking for real. Emma suddenly climbed into Maya's lap, wrapping her arms around her neck. Please stay, she whispered. Please be our family. And just like that, Maya's last wall crumbled. Okay, she said, holding Emma close and meeting Daniel's eyes. Okay, I'll stay. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of the mirror in her new apartment. The one Daniel had helped her move into last month. Closer to his house, closer to possibilities she was learning to believe in. She was getting ready for Emma's birthday party, and for once, she wasn't counting coins or calculating bus fare. Daniel had helped her enroll in an online nursing program. Between her work schedule and his flexible hours, they'd figured it out. They figured a lot of things out together now. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Emma's asking where you are. She says the party can't start without you. Maya smiled at her reflection, really smiled. She still had hard days, days when the old voices whispered their poison. But now she had other voices too. Daniel's steady affirmation, Emma's uncomplicated love, her own growing belief that maybe, just maybe, she was exactly who she needed to be. At the party, Emma ran to her immediately, dragging her to see the cake, chocolate, Maya's favorite. Emma had insisted. Daniel caught her eye across the backyard full of children and parents, and his smile made her heart skip. Later, after the cake and presents, after the other families had gone home, the 3 of them sat on Daniel's porch swing. Emma was drowsy between them. Mr. Hops clutched to her chest. Best birthday ever, Emma mumbled, half asleep. Because of the bouncy house? Daniel asked. Because Maya's here. Emma yawned. She makes everything better. Maya felt tears sting her eyes. The good kind this time. Daniel's arm came around her shoulders, pulling her close. She really does. I love you both, Maya said. The words easier now, after months of practice. So much. We love you too, Daniel whispered against her hair. Always. Emma stirred. Even when you're scared? Maya looked at this little girl who'd seen her crying in a restaurant and decided she was worth saving. She looked at the man who'd chosen to see her when she couldn't see herself. Especially when I'm scared, Maya said. As the sun set over Daniel's backyard, painting everything in shades of gold, Maya thought about that night at Giovanni's, about Marcus walking away, about the humiliation that had nearly destroyed her. She thought about how close she'd come to missing this family, this love, this life she was building one brave choice at a time. And she realized something that made her smile. Marcus had done her a favor. His rejection had led her to Daniel's table. His cruelty had created space for Daniel's kindness. His blindness had given her the chance to be truly seen. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked softly. Maya looked at him, at Emma sleeping between them, at the life she'd almost been too afraid to reach for. I'm thinking, she said, that sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best people. Daniel kissed her forehead. Always, Emma mumbled in her sleep. Mr. Hops knew you'd stay, and Maya laughed. That real, free laugh she'd discovered at this very table 6 months ago, because a stuffed rabbit had been right all along. Love wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about being enough by someone else's standards. It was about finding people who saw you, really saw you, and chose you anyway. It was about choosing yourself. And in that choice, Maya had found everything she'd stopped believing she deserved. Belonging, purpose, and a love that felt like coming home. Maya learned that her worth wasn't defined by rejection, but by her courage to show up, for herself and for love. What's one thing you've learned about your own worth? Share in the comments below. Your story matters and someone out there needs to hear it.
Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.